Yeah, another episode, DMS TV, DMS chats, all the interesting things about the industry. And we have a special guest, Miss Wanda Baloyi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure, you know. And I actually, when we met the other day, a lot of people don't know we met the other day, but well, we meet, we artists. So, but I just thought, you know, and I said, you know, so I'm actually excited about today's interview.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Just running a lot of things. Obviously, it's really about house, but not really about house because the industry and the conference was not. I know it's kind of perceived as a house thing, but when we start talking about Mark de Clive Lowe, who is going to come through, and will still be part of this in some way or another, is Mr. Acid Jazz, you know, actually hardcore jazz, never mind. And that's kind of your background as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I think let's start there,
Okay.
you know, because from my perspective, jazz and house works side and side.
Absolutely.
I grew up with jazz and I got into house. And so I just believe it works. I don't know, somehow a lot of people are just connected in that way.
There's no law to it, yeah.
And maybe, and I know you come from a background, I think, maybe a whole musical background, where
Yeah.
you come from
Yeah.
up to here, if you can.
Firstly, long story. My parents are from Mozambique. My dad is a musician and he comes from a musical family. So I guess my music influence definitely comes from my father. I grew up listening to a lot of, I wouldn't call it jazz per se, but I grew up listening to a lot of world music. So my ear and my library of music is very big and very vast. So when I had the opportunity to get into the industry, the first music or genre rather that spoke to my heart was your more Afros, fusion, jazz, you know, because that's what's in my ear and that's what I grew up listening to. So it made it really easy for me to start my path in that direction.
Okay. The transition, I mean, you obviously, but you somehow mentioned to me when we spoke last time, just that you felt that you should do house from a long time ago. And it took you quite a while to actually.
Oh, yeah.
Why was that though?
I don't know. I cannot lie to you. I have no idea. I guess I followed my journey. I mean, I started in a group called Ghetto Love, which was not jazz. It was very popish. And then from there, when I did my solo, it was more Afro jazz kind of sound. And funny enough, my first love for music was house music. Nobody knows that. So house music, I grew up in Yeovil. So there was a place called Tando, I'm sure you know. And I fell in love with house music during that time and those places. So I never thought at that moment that I will venture into that kind of sound, or I'll maybe one day record a couple of house songs. I don't know. But it's something that I fell in love with. It's the music that just...
Part of the culture.
Yes, it got me. So I think after the years, I mean, I've experienced my own genre, I've performed in different stages. Really, not long ago, I think a few years back, I was like, no, but this thing, I really want to try this thing because it speaks to my soul. And the first person I actually worked with in terms of writing a song from scratch and doing a house production was the couple, which I did mention the last time. I did work with Louis Vega. That was a remix. That was something that he took from what was already there, and you know, we kind of did it. But
Did he ask you for extra pieces?
No, he did. He actually heard an original that I was singing at KFM, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, I would like to remix that song," and he sings the song Kisses. And I'm like, what? Damn, wow, okay. Then when he wanted the vocals, we decided to re-record it and give it a different approach.
Turn it around.
Yes,
Yeah.
and turn it around, give it a different feel. So then when we sent him the vocals, it was as if it was like a new song. Yeah. But it was actually from the original. But for me, that didn't feel like I'm starting a song from scratch and working on a house song from nothing. So I think Tekapo was the first person that gave me that opportunity to test my house writing skills and obviously my approach to house music. Yeah.
And then, of course, you've done stuff with rhythm sessions.
Yes.
Something with Chime and Music now. It's going to come
Yes.
out soon. That's an
Yes.
amazing track
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Yes.
And your voice is so suited. But either way, like I said, I feel there's a good fusion between jazz and house. And I think, especially on the soulful house, and I think sometimes from my perspective, maybe why certain vocalists are scared to get into the house scene if they don't know it that well, because a lot of people don't play the soulful house. And that's actually the most powerful, because that's where the lyrics come out and you can express yourself just like any other genre. It doesn't matter which genre it is.
Absolutely.
If you're a singer, and it doesn't matter even if you do opera, you can express yourself in house because it allows you that limitation, or not the limitation, or at least the freedom.
The freedom, yes.
To actually express yourself. And I want to jump into where we are now, because obviously we've gone through this 6 months transition, not working as artists, stuff like that. I mean, as an artist, and to other artists, and even to the public out there, I mean, I was just looking on social media the other day, and when artists stood up and marched, or whether they say something, and the public is like, kind of, but really, do you guys need this? I mean, you guys are well off. And I think people have really the wrong perceptions. I mean, we're just like everybody else. It's just that we're seen in the limelight and stuff. Maybe go through the 6 months, and maybe just go through it, and all the little challenges that have happened, what it's taught you. Where do we see ourselves from here, maybe?
For me personally, it's taught me a lot. And also the perception that the audience has on the so-called celebrities is so different. It's like, we're not people. We don't go through the things you go through. And it doesn't make sense. We are people. We also run out of bread. We also experience difficulties in life,
Even before COVID,
Even way before COVID. So our job and our way of making income is different to the norm. But your job is to be on a stage, to perform, to make music, to, entertain, and that's how you make your income. You understand? So in as much as somebody wakes up to go to the office, to do whatever that they do to make their income, it's the same with us. The only difference is that us is placed on the light. We're on the stage.
On a pedestal.
Yes, and there's this misconception that I think also social media has played a big role in terms of maybe giving a false identity in terms of what artists go through. So we feel pressured to show the good life, to show
we're always okay.
We okay, we got this. So when people see you complaining that we don't have it together, they're like, but what do you mean? Because you were just sipping champagne just yesterday. What's your story? You understand? So I think it's also an opportunity to educate people, to educate the audience, to say that yes, in as much as any human being can go through whatever challenges, so can those that are on the spotlight. So can artists. So artists go through the same issues, even with relationships. We also get breakups, we also go through heartbreak. So I think it's just an opportunity to educate the audience and tell them that we are no different from you. No different whatsoever. Yeah.
Yep. Mentally, how has it affected you? Because I think not only us as artists, everybody mentally. And mentally from your side, how did you keep yourself sane? Especially those first 3 months, I think.
Lord knows I lost it and found it and lost it and found it again. I think for a creative person such as us, it is difficult to stay caged. So we're very expressive people, so very spontaneous people. Creativity comes and lives in different spaces and in different experiences and different environments. So when you're confined to a space, you must understand we are outdoor people. We are people. So we always need that connection with people. So when you're forced to stay in a space where you're by yourself, we work with this. So if this is constantly moving and constantly circulating, and then there's not only creativity that you're thinking of, it's now the stress of life.
Yep.
It's now you having to deal and think about things that you never had to deal with before. So now your mind is doing a roller coaster ride on you, but at the same time you're trying to stay sane. So for me, my way of trying to stay sane was writing. I try to write songs. I try to be creative. We couldn't walk. We couldn't leave the house. So you try and do a little bit of home exercise, the little bit that you can. I tried making video calls to my friends and stuff, trying to stay in contact with people that are not next to you. I tried whatever I could. I cried a lot because I was not sure what the future holds. So you're in this situation where you're like, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is all I know. I only know this life. But now if this is taken away from me, I'm not sure where I stand.
Yep.
So I was forced to think now, what are the other things that I can do? So I'm brainstorming, I'm talking to family, I'm talking to friends, I'm talking to, other people that, we can bounce off ideas. And I must say, I'm so grateful for the people in my space that have helped me really stay sane, because I was losing it. I was losing it, seriously, yeah.
And I think another thing that we touched base on, which I think is important to sometimes, it is important to acknowledge. I mean, when this whole thing started, I mean, arts and culture reached out and said, there's a relief fund, let's apply for it and stuff like that. I did, and I thought, there's nothing much that we can get, and look, let's just do it either way, because I guess it's also that space where you realize, I'm stuck here. What do we do? Let's do this. And I think I've sent proposals personally to arts and culture a few times, even whether it's not necessarily at the main arts and culture, it could be at this department or that department. Nothing's really happened. So I thought, okay, and funny enough, they actually came through in the sense that there was a relief fund for artists. And what I found quite astonishing, and you also mentioned the same story, was that for other people for those that had valid reasons, in other words, your gigs were not postponed and they were cancelled, there was some form of a relief fund and everybody got a similar amount. And I found it quite important that, well, people within my company, doesn't matter the status. I mean, I guess I'm the biggest artist, but people kind of got the same amount.
We all got the same, yeah.
And you mentioned the same thing, and I think it's a good thing, and it's a good thing to acknowledge, because I'd like to acknowledge people when things like that do happen, and that's nice. And I'd like to encourage other people, because these are the opportunities as we're going through COVID, and I see certain opportunities that come up every now and then, and I would say, don't give up, do. On that basis, do actually apply, because you never know. Because I think sometimes we go and you hear a lot of things. You hear, somebody told me the minister won't really respond. I've DM'd him and he actually responded. Actually, I was one of the first when this thing hit. And they said there will be relief funds for this and this. And I said, what about DJs? And he said, what about them? And then I was quite surprised, okay. And he answered, and I actually sent him a mail, and he's been responsive still then. So I just want to say, use the opportunities that are there. They might not be what we want, but use them. Yeah. And I just thought that it's important maybe to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I think also maybe going forward, where do you think from here, the lessons we've learned? I guess we also got a little story to say, and we're slightly open now. I can't really say we're working. Everybody was excited about level 2.
We're still crawling, yeah.
But we're still crawling. People might think, okay, they're working. I'll be honest. I think we're going for a month now. The period of this recording, we're going for a month since we opened. And I actually had my first paying gig, which was probably like a third of what I normally would get, or even less, last week, which I haven't been paid for yet, I'm sure I will. But I'm just saying, and it's not as easy as what people think. And there isn't actually still jobs for us as artists. We have to, there's still a struggle, and probably there's going to be a struggle for the next 4 or 5 months.
Absolutely.
If we are realistic.
Absolutely. Now that's
what do you think the way forward is
for us? One thing for sure, it's a big lesson to remember that not everything is permanent. Not everything is going to stay the same way. You might wake up and things are completely different, which is what happened to us, where you're used to having your weekend gigs, you're used to having, this frequent income that comes from here and there and whatever. There was constant movement. Now, when that movement is completely shut down, what do you do next? You understand? So if you've lived your entire life like me, knowing that this is what I do, this is what I know, this is what has made me the person that I am, what do I do when it's all shut down? So it has placed me in a position where I had to think out of the box. Firstly, I would never stop doing music because that's my life and that's my passion. I completely and absolutely love creating and love writing songs. So if there's no platform for me to actually perform as much, then I can work on my compositions. I can work on writing more and having more songs out there so that people can get to listen to where I'm at and okay, I'm still being creative, etc. What are the other passions that I like doing? There must be something else. We're individuals of multiples. It's like an individual doesn't just listen to jazz. You must like gospel, you must like house music, you must. So the same thing applies in terms of you as an individual. There's got to be other things that you enjoy doing. So you have to, I had to jot that down, strip naked like Wanda, let's find these other things and slowly start finding other ways that we can make money. But the trick here is that because you're used to this, now we have to think like this. So when you're used to a certain fee, now you have to understand that things are different. So now we're not going to get that money. So now you need to add other things that are going to add a little bit, that's going to make that number. You understand? So it's frustrating because if you think I have an event, 50 people maximum, I have a band, there's sound, there's venue, there's so many expenses. How am I going to make that money back from just the 50 people? And even the 50 people, I cannot overcharge them. You understand? I cannot, people can't leave the house to pay 1.5 to come in. They'd be like, girl, please. You know, we love you, but hold on a bit. So you have to think about all these things and different ways in which we can try and stay relevant, but at the same time make money. Yeah.
Another thing is, I'm sure you've heard, maybe the last question, I'm sure you've heard about the Facebook thing where musicians or DJs as well, on the 1st of October, that they will be blocking people performing.
What? On Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think number one is it affects people more that are performing other people's songs, so DJs get affected more, but they are capping down on performances per se. So in other words, this is not a performance platform, this is actually a family and friend platform, and you guys are doing all these things live, and eventually we'll actually stop you, cut you, and even deactivate your account. If that's what it's going to be. I don't know if so, you actually don't know about it.
No, I don't.
How would you feel though about that? I mean, does it affect you a lot? Are you a lot live? Because I mean, if we can't perform to big audiences for now, I guess the option, a lot of people have been going live.
Yeah. For me personally, I find, okay, it works a little bit different from a performer's perspective and obviously a DJ. Because obviously DJs is playing other people's music, so there's permission and restrictions and stuff like that. Whereas a performer, you're mostly performing your own songs. So there isn't much restriction in that. But I'm not sure if Facebook is an ideal platform I would use for performances. Because you need to think...
You don't get any money.
Exactly. We need to think, what are the avenues that we're going to get money from? You get what I mean? So there are different online options, which I've done one, where they do give you a platform. So same as here, they give you a space with the whole sound, the instruments and everything, and then you link it to how people can pay in order to watch the performance. So everything is recorded, everything is filmed, so you have that platform. But the thing is, the numbers, it's tricky. The numbers are not as big because if a household has 20 people, one person buys a ticket. You understand? And then you have like 5 tickets sold, but you have 100,000 people watching. So it's pretty tricky. But we're taking baby steps to try and figure out how are we going to do this until it becomes a culture, till it becomes normalized. I mean, they've been doing this before, Tiny Desk. There's different online platforms that have been there where...
But the money is not there.
But
that's
the
the problem.
money is not there.
The money is in the performance.
Exactly. So now we need to find what are the ways that I mean, I know YouTube, you can make money from it, from the more...
But once you get enough views.
Exactly. You need to build up on the views.
My concern with that is, and not knocking anybody down, it seems like all these platforms, once they get the followers and everything, then they start to control us.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time that we start to think to have our own platforms.
Absolutely.
Maybe through your own your own platform, or even as a country, to actually have a South African platform where people can follow. I think we do have a lot of loyal followers.
Yes.
Maybe they don't necessarily understand that we do go through hardships, but either way,
Yes.
we have a lot of
Yes.
loyal followers, and we have we get a crazy love.
Yeah.
You know, back here at home, definitely, and big support. So maybe we should look at those avenues, because, like I said, I just tend to find that once the numbers are good and great,
Yeah.
or they see a point, then they start to block us or control us.
Yeah,
And we don't want that, because
No.
it's kind of what we're going through now. We're controlled.
Absolutely. So I think it's an eye opener for all of us. It's an educational point for all of us, where we have to also sit down and knock our heads together and figure out what are the ways that we can use to empower ourselves. So I think artists should also come together and say, we as a collective are creating this platform that is regulated by us for our fans, so that if you are in search of a specific artist, if you want to watch, they should have like a whole menu. Who do you want to watch? This is how much you pay. You understand? I know we have to start really small because it's a baby steps, but I think as time goes on, we will change the narrative of how artists take over what is theirs, instead of us being reliant on different platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all these other platforms that are in return making money from you. How do we take it back, create our own, and have people come here? So if you're looking for DJ Christos, he is on the menu. This is his next gig. This is how much the ticket is. It's like a Ticket Pro web ticket thing, but it's organized and controlled by the artists themselves.
And well, even like a subscription where people can follow you and watch anything, or you pay a subscription a month. And I think we need to start looking at those things.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing of the conference was always to share creative ideas, and maybe the new generation, not necessarily the new generation, just all of us can think of ideas and platforms that we can do things, and stop waiting for other countries to do them, and then we follow. And never mind, we actually don't follow and do it for ourselves. We actually follow on their platforms, you know. And it's no offense to any other country or anything. We appreciate what everybody does, but I think it's time that maybe ownership. We need to own.
We need ownership.
We need ownership.
We need ownership, yeah.
Thank you very much, Wanda.
Thank you.
And all the best. And you know what? One of these days we're going to record a song together.
Oh.
We've spoken about it. We're going to do it. I think I need to get mentally fit. I'm not mentally fit for the studio right now. I think I'm just not there. And I think when I'm right, I don't know when that'll be, but it'll be soon. No, but when I'm right, I know we're going to make a beautiful song together. You know,
Absolutely.
That voice, I think since I met you, and you probably won't remember, from the Boom Shaka days.
Wow.
From those days, you know, I've wanted to say, just imagine, I think it's been like 25 years
That's
now.
a long
20 years,
time
25
ago.
years, yeah.
That's a long
So,
time
you know
ago.
what? We're going to do it.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
God
very
bless.
much. God bless you too.